Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are jumping straight into the source material. We're carving out the most critical bits of knowledge from, well, what's probably the densest guide out there for inventors, the Manual of Patent Examining Procedure, the MPEP.
That's right. And this is part of our ongoing series where we try to give you a shortcut to understanding the structure, the intent, and, the real-world application of these patent principles.
So today's focus is MPEP Chapter 2500.
Right, which is all about maintenance fees.
Maintenance fees, basically it's the price you pay to keep your patent alive, to keep it in force.
It is. It's how the USPTO ensures patent owners stay invested. And within that chapter, we're really zooming in on one specific section, MPEP Section 2550.
And that section covers entity status discounts.
Exactly. We're going to unpack how you, as a patent owner, can legally pay significantly less to maintain your patent. It's all about the procedures for establishing, and this is the critical part, maintaining your status as a small entity or a micro-entity.
Get it right, you save a lot of money.
Get it wrong, and you could risk losing your patent. It's that serious.
Okay, let's unpack this framework, but first, we want to give a special thank you to Mike Shepard.
Yes, the creative director who organized this whole audio series. His vision really helped make this complex stuff accessible.
And, of course, our necessary disclaimer.
Right. This summary was generated using AI tools like ChatGPT and NotebookLM, so it might have errors. It's for educational purposes only. It is not legal advice.
For any authoritative guidance, you absolutely have to consult the official MPEP or, a registered patent practitioner.
Please do.
All right, let's start at the beginning. Establishing a discounted status. We've got two categories, small entities and micro entities. What's the real difference in how you establish them?
The difference really, it comes down to the level of proof the USPTO wants to see, and that corresponds directly to how big of a discount you're getting.
Okay.
For a small entity, the requirement is just a written assertion. You, the patentee, you just have to state your status in writing.
So it's permitted signed statement.
It is. And you have to file it before or when you submit that first discounted fee.
And do you have to do that every single time you pay a fee? Reassert it?
No, and that's a key point. It helps reduce the administrative load. Once you've filed that assertion, the small entity status is considered valid until you officially change it or revoke it.
So you don't have to keep filing the same paper over and over.
Exactly. Though you do have to remain qualified, which we'll get into.
That sounds fairly simple. I also remember the sources mentioning that it doesn't matter where you're located.
That's right. It's consistent with the Paris Convention. Small entities can claim these discounts no matter what country they're in. It's about your size, not your address.
Okay, so that's small entity. Now, what about micro entity? The sources say that requires a formal certification. That sounds like a much higher bar.
It is a much higher bar, and it's because the discount is so much larger. The USPTO, well, they demand more procedural integrity.
So it's not just a simple assertion.
No, you have to file a formal certification of micro-entity status. You're certifying that you meet very specific criteria on size, on income, and on how many prior applications you've filed. And it has to be filed by an authorized person under the specific rules.
So that difference assertion versus certification is a really key insight. It tells you how the USPTO use the two statuses.
Precisely. And you can see why when you look at the fees. Think about the transmittal fee for an international design application. For a large entity, it's, say, $120.
Okay.
For a small entity, that drops to $48. But for a micro entity, it might be just $24. When you get to the big maintenance fees, those savings are huge.
So getting that status established correctly from the get-go is critical. It locks in that lower rate for the life of the patent.
As long as you remain eligible, yes.
Okay, so we've established the status. The patentee is enjoying their discounted fees. But patents are around for a long time. Things change.
They certainly do.
And this brings us to the ongoing duty to reassess. This isn't just a one-time task you can forget about.
Not at all. And this is fascinating, actually. The MPEP puts a continuous responsibility on the patent owner to keep their entity status records accurate. It's like having a required internal audit built right into the fee schedule.
So when does that audit get triggered? Is there a specific time you have to check?
Yes. A new determination of your entitlement to small entity status is specifically required whenever the issue fee is due or when any maintenance fee is due.
So every time one of those major payment deadlines comes up?
Every single time. You have to check and confirm that you still qualify. You can't just assume the status you claimed 5 years ago is still valid today.
And this is where people can get into trouble.
Yeah.
Small business grows or it gets acquired. What happens if a change occurs and you lose that entitlement?
The notification is mandatory. And the timing is, well, it's ruthlessly strict. If you lose your status, you must notify the USPTO.
And when do you have to do that?
The notification has to be filed prior to paying or at the time of paying the very next maintenance fee that's due after you lost the status.
Okay, let's use that acquisition scenario to make it really clear. Let's say there's a startup. They're a small entity. 6 months before their 7.5-year maintenance fee is due, they get bought by a massive corporation.
Okay.
So now all their patent rights belong to a large entity.
Right. At that moment, they've lost their status. They must submit a written notification of that loss of entitlement before they pay that upcoming fee.
So if they just go ahead and pay the discounted fee without filing that notice,
That's a serious procedural error, even if they did it by mistake.
and it has to be a specific signed notification, maybe on a particular form, like the SB 460 for micro entities.
Exactly. It's all about the formal procedural evidence. And this leads to a huge misconception that we really need to clear up.
Which is?
Many people think, okay, I've lost my small entity status, so I'll just start paying the higher large entity fee. They think that act of paying more serves as a notification.
And you're saying that's wrong.
Completely wrong. Paying the non-discounted fee is not sufficient notification. The rule is crystal clear. A separate written notification is mandatory. The USPTO needs that clean paper trail for their records. The money is one thing. The official record of your status change is another.
This is a perfect lead-in to the next part, which is resolving fee discrepancies. Because the USPTO is definitely watching.
Oh, they are actively monitoring this. They compare the payment you make against the entity status they have on file, and if there's a mismatch, they take action.
Right, so let's talk about the notices they send out. First, you could get an overpayment notice.
That's the better of the two problems to have. An overpayment notice means you paid more than you needed to because the USPTO actually has you down for a discounted status.
So you might get a refund, but it's still a headache.
It's still administrative cleanup, yes.
But the one you really don't want to see in your inbox is the underpayment notice.
That's the danger zone. An underpayment notice means your payment was too low for the status they have on record.
So for example, you paid the micro entity fee, but their records still show you as a large entity.
Exactly. Or maybe you lost your microentity status, you forgot to notify them, and you paid the lower fee anyway. Either way, they're going to send a notice demanding the difference.
And if you get that notice, you have a couple of options to fix it.
Two basic paths. You either submit the missing money and confirm that your status is correct, if their record was wrong, or you provide the right paperwork to update your status because you were the one who was wrong.
But the real kicker here is the deadline. This is where it gets, as you said, really interesting and potentially catastrophic.
The timelines are incredibly strict, and we can't stress this enough.
They are non-extendable.
Non-extendable. That's the key. You generally have a 1-month period to respond to these notices. 1 month, no extensions.
That puts a ton of pressure on a company's compliance team. If you miss that 1-month window, the consequences are bad.
They're severe. Let's walk through what happens if someone drops the ball and that deadline flies by. If you fail to fix the deficiency, especially one from an erroneous microentity payment, the office has a couple of options.
And neither are good for the patent owner, I'm guessing?
Not at all. They might process your payment but then slap you with a significant processing fee on top of it, a penalty.
So you pay the difference plus a fine.
Or, even worse, they could just return your deficient payment entirely. And if your grace period for paying the fee has already expired by then, your patent is just gone. It's considered expired for failure to pay.
Wow. So a simple administrative error in claiming a discount could literally lead to the death of a valuable patent.
Unless you then go through the very costly and complex process of petitioning to revive it and proving the failure was unintentional, it all goes back to procedural integrity. The USPTO gives you the discount, but you carry all the risk for any procedural mistakes.
The moment that underpayment notice arrives, a clock starts ticking down to a very hard deadline that determines the survival of your patent.
It really does.
Let's talk about one last thing. Ownership transfers. This is a common way for status to change. What if a transfer happens between two companies that both qualify for a discount?
That's a great question. If, say, one small entity sells a patent to another small entity, and the status was properly established and remains accurate for the new owner,
then no new filing is required.
Correct. No new filing is required just because of the ownership change. The status stays with the patent as long as the new owner also qualifies.
But the second the circumstances change, the new owner doesn't qualify, that's when that mandatory prompt written notification has to happen before the next payment.
Absolutely. The whole system is designed to catch these changes at the payment checkpoints. The goal of all of it, the assertions, the notifications, the strict deadlines, is to maintain the integrity of the process.
So what's the big takeaway for a patent owner trying to navigate all this?
I think the big takeaway is that the benefit of saving money on fees comes with a very real responsibility of administrative diligence. You have to be proactive.
You have to manage your status carefully to make sure you get those discounts legitimately and avoid huge procedural problems later on.
Exactly. Upfront diligence will save you so much time and money and potential heartache in the long run.
Okay, so to recap the key points here. First, you have to formally assert or certify your status right at the beginning.
Second, you have a mandatory written duty to notify the USPTO if you lose that status, and you have to do it before the next fee is paid.
And third, if the USPTO finds an underpayment, you face a strict, non-extendable 1-month deadline to fix it or risk your patent expiring.
That's it in a nutshell.
This all raises a really interesting strategic question for businesses. Considering how serious the consequences are and how rigid that 1-month deadline is, how might these rules affect a small company's decision about when to finalize a sale or an acquisition?
That's a fantastic point. Think about it. If your acquisition closes one day after you've paid a maintenance fee, you have 3.5 years before the next payment window to sort out the notification.
Plenty of time.
But if that deal closes one day before the fee is due, that notification of status loss becomes an immediate, high-priority, mandatory compliance task.
So the strategic timing of major corporate events could suddenly become a critical part of your patent management strategy.
It absolutely could. That acquisition's closing date could put your legal team under immense, immediate pressure. Definitely something to think about.
Well, as always, for any real procedural guidance, we have to reiterate that you should consult the official MPEP or a registered patent practitioner.
Please do. This is just to get you thinking.
And that wraps up our deep dive today. We hope you feel a little better equipped to navigate the very tricky world of entity status go-downs.